Good Monday morning. Welcome to the Olson Advantage. I'm Dave Olson, the Olson Properties Team. We're going to take a brief break from our series on your economy versus the entire economy and some of the strategies that we can do to kind of long-term help on that, and do a quick market recap. We haven't done one in a while, so we thought with the majority of March's data all in, we thought we'd do that for you. So let's get started. So the first thing we want to show you, I like to do these. I don't know if anybody else benefits from, but when looking at where we are now, it's always good to see where we were. So the first slide we're going to show you is taking a look north at 70th Street in Camelback and compare the 60s to a recent picture from 2023. The valley's grown significantly. I've been here 30 years and it's amazing to see what has happened. And I think that growth is going to continue. I think Phoenix has done a phenomenal job infrastructurally bringing jobs here, and we're going to talk more about that. So we're going to start off with jobs. We always talk about jobs in terms of housing because with job growth comes appreciation of housing and stability in and around housing. So let's touch on some of that. And this is all March and April news. So as we look at what we call the Crane report, which comes out in the Phoenix Home Journal, I won't read all of this. I've highlighted some different things, but we see there's some significant activity all around the valley. So Peoria, Mesa, Chandler. Next slide. We see things that are going on with semiconductors and technology. Building of housing. Phoenix is mentioned. Fender is putting a large presence here in the valley. That's the guitar company. E-commerce giant Amazon is continuing to add another 1.2 million square foot building here in the valley. So the job growth and the investment in this market continues to grow. The Deer Valley area, which is North Phoenix near the airport. LG is putting a big presence out in Queen Creek, which is the East Valley. Home Depot, Dick's Sporting Goods are adding, and Costco are all going out to the Buckeye area as well. So again, we continue to see significant investment. With those investments come jobs. With jobs come stability. And appreciation and the need and the desire for housing. So all of those things matter. And the reason we like to lean on these is these are obviously companies that have much smarter people working for them, much more bigger investments, skin in the game, and they do a lot of research. So we can kind of lean on the fact that they probably are a little smarter than we are and probably know what they're doing. And if they're going to make investments into this market, then it's probably a good place to be. So how is the market cycle and the market sentiment? So we show you a slide. We've shown this to you many times in the past. And right now we're somewhere between skepticism on our way towards hope, which is a good thing. And after that, we see relief and back to some optimism and enthusiasm. Now, when we talk about the market cycle in and of itself, we know that this cycle happens. We don't know how long we go between each stage of each one of these cycles. So that's important to recognize. We went from euphoria all the way to despair in a single year in 22. Okay, and we can look at kind of why that happened when we saw the big change in what was occurring in real estate. But in general, some numbers are in, and we're going to look at where are we now year on year. So this is through March. The numbers are all baked in. So the first slide we're going to look at is all homes under 2,500 square feet, which is 85% of all transactions. So when we go back 2 years to 22, between 22 and 23, we dropped 7%. We are up currently between March of 23 and March of 24, 4.8%. So that is a net minus 2.5% off of the peak leading March. Okay, now again, all homes under 2,500 square feet. Now, when we look at homes over 2,500 square feet, we'll see that March was relatively flat between 22 and 23 and is up almost 7% between 23 and 24. Now, this is 20% of all transactions, luxury being, for the most part, over 2,500 square feet, and typically, depends on the geography, at least 850,000, more often 1 million, and depending on the zip code, can even be higher than that. So when we blend these two numbers together and we look at an all-in number, we see that between 22 and 23, we dropped 7% all in. But from 23 through 24, we're up 8.8%, which luxury is driving a majority of that gain. But when we look from 22 to 24, we're basically flat. We are back to 22's highs all in. If I talk to 2 to 5 to 10 people a week that all say, it sounds like home prices are coming down. I guess prices are coming down. I said, well, what makes you say that? Well, my neighbor's got his house for sale and he had to drop the price. Well, we don't want to get into the weeds. I don't want to get argumentative, but what's probably happening is the home was maybe priced a little high, and it does vary market by market, but where homes are actually selling for, and here are the numbers, we're back to basically where we were at the highs of 22. When you look all in, condos, townhouses, luxury, regular homes, manufactured homes, all in, we're basically right about where we were 2 years ago. Okay, so let's take a look at the Cromford report. The aqua line is 24, so we are basically bouncing right above a balanced market, and it very much feels like it. Nothing sexy, nothing crazy. You got to work a little harder if you're selling. You don't have to work quite as hard if you're a buyer compared to what we just came out of the last couple of years. But we are doing business. It's not a crazy amount of business, but it is a healthy amount of business. There's people moving up, people moving down, people moving and relocating here and acquiring property. And it feels very healthy, but let's take a look at what's driving it. And first, we'll take a real quick look at how does this break out by market, because again, not every market is exactly the same. So let's take a look. The green at the top, Chandler being number one, has the highest Cromford score. Again, 110 to 90 is a balanced market. So they're well above balanced. They're up 3% month over month. They were at 204. So as we look across, you can see what those numbers look like. Now we have a couple red. Gilbert's, trending down just slightly. Glendale's trending down just slightly. Tempe's kind of hot. It's up 12%. Avondale, it's kind of hot. It's up 9%. The ones that are truly in balance, Surprise, Paradise Valley, Cave Creek, all balanced, somewhere in the 90s. And then we have a few buyers markets, Queen Creek, Goodyear, Maricopa, and Buckeye. A couple of them are moving up slightly, a couple of them are backing off slightly. And then off to the right, some minor markets. We have buyers markets in Casa Grande, Gold Canyon, Sun City West, Sun City, which is expected in the summertime. Arizona City, Litchfield Park is another balanced market, and then seller markets, which have a lot more activity. Anthem, Apache Junction, El Mirage, Laveen, Sun Lakes, which is ironic because that's really kind of a 55 plus area. And then Tolleson is the hottest market at 228. So let's look at this on the contract ratio map, heat map. We'll show you that. I drew the line basically where the 10 is. Look at all of the hot markets below that line. And it was reflected when we looked at areas. A lot of job growth there, a lot of activity there, the new highways that are going in, it's spurring a lot of interest. Gilbert, Chandler, Laveen, Goodyear, all very strong. And then I put the little circle up at the top. Everything surrounding Taiwan Semiconductor is also staying quite warm, with a little area in North Phoenix there off to the right that's even hotter. And that's kind of that Tremonto, North Phoenix area. So What does this look in a daily close ratio? Well, when we look back year on year, we had 7,200 transactions close in the month of March in 22. This last month in March, we had 6,392, but they're actually much closer together. We're only 0.4% apart because the number of closing days, which matters because you can only close Monday through Friday, we had more midweek days a year ago than we did this month. So the data has to be looked at pretty closely. They're actually very close together. Now, what's driving and keeping and sustaining this level of activities? Well, let's take a look at concessions. Concessions, again, that's money that's not necessarily showing up on the top line. Okay, I sold my house for $300,000, but I gave $8,000 in concessions to buy a rate down for the buyer. Okay, that does not show up on the top line. It's buried inside below before we get to the bottom line, but that's not going to show up if you look up how much did my neighbor's house sell for. Okay, so we peaked at about $10,000 in December. We're sliding slightly. 9,200 in March, about 9,000 so far in the month of April. We only have about 6-8 days of data collected. Let's look at it by market, okay? So when we look at concessions, the highest being Gila Bend, 100% of the contracts come in Gila Bend all have some kind of concessions. Now, it's probably not a lot of transactions, but it's 100% of them. And then you see zip codes in Phoenix, you see Tolleson, you see Arizona City, Tonopah, Glendale, Phoenix, another Phoenix zip code, Buckeye, Mesa, Youngtown, Casa Grande, right on down the line. These are the markets that have the highest amount of concessions being paid in order to get deals done and deals closed. So let's look at that on a map, okay? And again, if we had that line in there, we'd see that things to the south of Phoenix, Goodyear, Buckeye, Maricopa, Coolidge, Santan Valley, Chandler, Gilbert, parts of Mesa, even Central Phoenix, and then even the area in North Glendale up around Taiwan Semiconductor are having seller assisting our buyers getting into a home. So a majority of that is buying down the rate. So people are out shopping, finding deals, getting their sellers to pay down the rate to bridge them for 1, 2, and up to 3 years until we figure this whole rate thing out. And again, you marry the house, you date the rate because you have the opportunity to change that at some point, but at least you have the opportunity to get into the house you want. Days on market, we're a little high for what's typically a March. Last March we were at about 40. Right now we're hanging at about 29, so we're actually down from a year ago, but we have more inventory. Used to be forever, it was 60 to 70 days. When we were selling homes in a weekend, things picked up significantly, but 30 days, 45 days is not an uncommon amount. Again, if people are getting antsy, sellers get antsy, they tend to give in to concessions. First thing you'll do is going to concede concessions before you start dropping price. So that's what will happen first. So that neighbor that dropped his price, maybe he wasn't getting the kind of offers with concessions, so he had to make some kind of a concession himself and drop his price. But usually those concessions will be the first move that happens. So let's look at the market in aggregate in all different categories year on year from March of 23 to 24. So we see a lot of green on the board. We're up slightly, 6% on average sales price. We talked about that. Median sales price is up about $27,000, closing in on $28,000 per home, and a median sales price. Over asking, we're up 1%, so 16% of all transactions are coming in over asking price. Still, 46% of homes have concessions. That average amount is around $9,200. The sales price versus list price ratio is right where we typically are. We're usually 97 to 98. So based on where the home comes on market relative to where it sells, we're at about 98% of that amount, and then days on market are around 29 days. Hopefully you found all this information useful. Know that we're going to come back and finish up our series on the next one. If you want to get caught up, if you missed the first two, you can always check out our YouTube page. I'll put that picture up so you can see what it is, but it's Phoenix, Scottsdale, Arizona Living. That's been around a lot longer than this communication to you. You can also search Olson Advantage. But again, remember, if you ever have any questions, don't hesitate to text the word answers to 59559. You can also reach out or call me directly at 623-570-4464. Thanks so much. Make it a great day.